Today on Mixed and Mastered, we're joined by one of the legends behind the scenes, Paul Stewart. Paul's been moving the culture for over 3 decades, starting at Delicious Vinyl, then working with House of Pain, De La Soul, Far Side, and Cypress Hill. Paul built Power Move Promotions into one of the first street promotion machines in the game. Russell Simmons tapped Paul to sign Montel Jordan and launch Def Jam West. Complex named him one of the 25 greatest A&Rs in hip-hop history. He then became an in-demand music supervisor and went on to shape soundtracks for over 50 films, including Hustle and Flow, Poetic Justice, and Too Fast, Too Furious. This is Mixed and Mastered with Paul Stewart. Welcome to Mixed and Mastered, the podcast where the stories of the music industry come to life. I'm Jeffrey Sledge, bringing you real conversations with the people who have shaped the sound of music. We're pulling back the curtain on what it takes to make it in the music business. These are the stories you won't hear anywhere else, told by the people who live them. This is Mixed and Mastered. I think, you're like, I was thinking about this. You're definitely, I don't know, you're the person I've known the longest in the music business. You're definitely top 3. I thought about it. I was like, from the people who are still left.
Sure.
Like I was like, I think Paul's like, he might be the one I know.
I had my very first job.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We both that was both our first jobs. So it was.
Yeah.
I think you and Red Alert are probably the people I've actually known the longest in the music business, because Red was his office. Red Alert Productions was right upstairs in the Wild Pitch building.
Amazing.
So I would go to see him.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's not about me. Paul Stewart is on the Mixed and Master podcast. How you feeling, man?
Oh, I feel great, man. Thanks for having me, man. Honored to discuss some old school stuff, new school, whatever,
Yeah. So let's get started. You are an LA born and raised kid.
Yeah, I was really lucky. Born in the Crenshaw district, which was very rare for white people. So I was surrounded with black culture and black music from birth, more or less.
Yeah.
From birth.
But and we're going to get into that. But you know what I've always admired about you, Dante Ross. There's a couple guys, Albie Ragusa, but who's not around in music anymore anyway.
Right.
It's like, as a black person, you were never trying to be black.
No,
you were just you. You were Paul.
I used to ride a skateboard around through the jungles, in the hood.
That's what I'm saying.
I was being a white boy, but exactly.
Yeah, you were just Paul. You were just Paul. It wasn't like yo. You were just Paul. But then as we talk, and we're going to talk in this, you'll hear that those experiences come out, and those are real experiences. But it wasn't like you didn't even wear them on your sleeve. You're just you.
I think that would have got me fucked up in my neighborhood, so to speak, if I was acting like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I was just who I was. I was a product because, my family was white. My brother was white as hell. You know what I mean? They were like, My brother was into skateboarding. I got into stuff like that, rock music. And then the neighborhood really started to affect me as I got older. You know what I mean? And then you're interacting with it more and getting more music and stuff, and so.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but thank you. That's an incredible compliment, and that's what helped me blend into my kind of job and what I did, because I was comfortable being in any kind of situation. Like black clients liked having me in the boardrooms, type of thing, and then I was cool to go to the thing in Watts or whatever, like in the hood or whatever, you know what I mean? So I had no problem just mingling, so to speak, in these worlds, because I had that kind of diverse upbringing. Even the neighborhood I'm from Baldwin Hills. We had like a black judge. We had like a black brain surgeon and a black NFL player, Deacon Jones, famous player, right on my block. But we're also right above the jungles, like I said, right where they should training day, so it's like Angel Dust Alley is happening. This is like, the height of like the gang era when I was like around high school. But, I was still removed from that, and all that, blessed, you know what I mean? But anyway, enough about that.
Yeah, I got you. So tell me about your first kind of, like what got you excited about music, not the business, but just music in general. Like as a kid, what were you listening to, and like how did that spark start?
It's funny. I had really diverse tastes. Like I got a Jackson 5 Greatest Hits album, like, just wore that out. But I had also had that Beach Boys double album of their hits, so I always had like this kind of pop side, and then but also, whatever, like, I, I was around a fair amount of black music when I was like young. I was buying 45s. I had Billy Preston, Stevie Wonder. I was buying some dope shit. But then I had like the Partridge Family. I had like the whitest.
I had that too.
Yeah, like the
The
Silver
Archies, the
Convention,
Archies.
all that. And, so, I was collecting 45s. I was just, I used to play music in my room and just like, I loved it. My brother was 2 years older than me. And he got really into like all kinds of like classic rock music, like Rolling Stones, Beatles. And so that really influenced me. So I started listening to that like around 12 or 13. That was kind of after the 45 phase, then I'm like listening to like albums and stuff, buying used albums. But at the same time, some black music, but not that much. You know what I mean? And then yeah, when I was like just getting into high school, like I heard like Sugar Hill Gang and Rocket, and I remember exactly where I was when I heard both those songs. So hip hop was just taking off, and it was just like for me. Then I just moved into DJing, working at record stores. It was like new wave was going on. It was a really exciting time in music.
Yeah,
You know what I
it
mean?
was. It was. That was actually my next question. Tell me about the DJing and how that happened.
So random. I was like the guy, what they call them, like the TAs in the dorm. It was like my first semester, I think.
Okay.
And
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Sonoma State.
Okay.
It was kind of like, for me, it was like, let me get out of this really urban environment and go chill somewhere. Like, I wasn't even thinking about being in the music industry or any industry. You know what I mean? I just wanted to like have some privacy and, you know what I mean? And relax a little bit. And I wasn't a very good student in high school. I was doing some dodgy shit and I got arrested twice in high school. So, anyway, I wasn't a great student. So my college options were limited. I couldn't go to a UCLA or anything like that. So I went, there were the Cal states were my choices. So I picked Sonoma State. So it's like an hour north of San Francisco,
Okay.
And I went up there. And so anyway, the guy comes to the dorms and he goes, hey, and I had a roommate, this young guy that liked music a lot. So we were always playing music. He goes, you're always playing your music so loud. He said, you do the music for the dance. So I was no DJ or anything like that. I made kind of like a pause tape, a bunch of little pause tapes.
Okay.
The funniest part is I had one turntable to play one song when I was flipping the tapes.
That's funny. That is funny. That's funny.
And it had everything in there like Motown and Fees music and New Wave and Rick James and, hip hop, definitely, There was a guy from San Jose, Leroy Worthy, I still remember his name, and he had a crate. It was like every hip hop record that had come out almost. And he used to let me borrow them to use them for dances and stuff like that. Wow. I just wanted to hear their music, him and his friends, they wanted to hear some, hip hop. It was like, people, it was so new, people don't really understand, like, and to hear it on a good system or whatever like that, you know what I mean? Like, it was in those days. I remember not too long when I heard Eric B's first song on the system there, and I was just like
blown away.
Eric Rakun's first song, and I was like, my mind was blown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was a super fan, and I just got into the music through being a super fan, DJing, working at record stores, being the 12-inch buyer for the DJs and stuff.
So it's a trip. Like even you just mentioned and we won't get into it, but like talking to Dante and some other people have been on the show. I've interviewed a lot of people. And like that whole thing, like being a buyer, like all those things are gone now. And I hate to sound like the old fogey, but like there was a specialness to to somebody being a buyer or promotions and all that stuff. It kind of immersed you into the culture and the music, and you could really. I could go to a record store in New York and like ask the guy. I was a record store. It's still open, called Rock and Soul.
Sure, I went there.
You remember Rockets, of course, yeah. It's different now. It's a different location, but back then there was a guy named Benji. Who worked in the store, and I could walk in the store and say, Benji, what's hot? And he'd be like, boom, 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 da, 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 da. He could just point it out. Like that stuff's gone now. I hate to sound like the old fogey, but that
and
was
even
beautiful.
The curation of the buyer, making sure you had like It's Time, or because there were like little weird records It's Time. Remember that song? It's
Time.
I was in some little tiny independent label, so but everybody wanted it. All the DJs and B-boys or whatever, and people were still buying vinyl. But yeah, no, I remember the first time I came to New York, I went to a New York record store. You guys had like bootlegs of these songs that I didn't buy because I wasn't out yet. Like, oh my God, like Four on the First Side or something. I was just like, I loved Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So wait. So from the DJing, tell me
Yeah.
now. Tell me how you walked kind of into the business from that after school and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, really like blindly. I mean, at first I had started this little like kind of magazine called the LA Informer with my college roommate when we got back, and we interviewed NWA and Queen Latifah. We had 2 issues, and a couple of really cool people. It's so funny when we did the NWA interview, they were like, "Can we take out our guns for the picture?" We're like, "Hell yeah!" And they're like, "You're the only magazine that's let us take out our guns," like because they
Wow.
had done Rolling Stone, but nobody was like, "No guns," So
Nah, I don't know.
the LA Informer was down for the guns. But anyway, so I was doing that, and I met this guy. I had this like one shift at this really important record store, Cranes on Pico. They
I
next
remember
door they had
Cranes.
opened something
I
called
remember
the
Cranes. Mm-hmm.
the Annex was where they sold the hip hop because the hip hop was bothering the R&B customers.
Of
You know what
course.
I mean? And so they
Of
had a
course.
whole separate little thing
The
where they were DJing
section.
and
Yep.
going off, and
Yep.
and then just Steve Crane was a really cool guy, the son of the original Crane who inherited the store, and so that
Mm-hmm.
was his thing. He did the Annex or whatever. So he gave me like a shift a week or so for like 3 hours or something. I was it barely employed there, but I was hanging out so much. And then I met this guy from Arista named Dean Porter. And I was like, "How do you get in the business?" And he's like, "Oh, we're going to be hiring an intern soon." And so I got an internship at Arista after much, motivation showing I was the one. Boy, they
Okay.
tried to run me through circles,
I bet.
have me work 60-hour weeks and pay me $100. You know what I mean? But it was great. It was an experience. And then right after that, I was involved in some big hip hop clubs. It was almost more important of my career. I was working with clubs like Water the Bush, which was like this monumental like LA hip hop club that Ice-T was involved in,
Mm-hmm.
and like the Booyah Tribe was our security. And then one night they didn't, they just show. There's crazy drama about that.
Yeah,
But
those
anyway,
guys. Those guys are incredible.
so I knew people, and the guy, Orlando Orguian, great guy at Delicious Vinyl, who was like, their whole street guy who had helped start it with like Mike Ross and Matt Dyke was like, he was like
Mm-hmm.
the first employee or whatever. They were like, "Oh, we need someone to do retail," and that's what I was doing at Arista. So I got a like retail marketing job. I was calling the record stores and trying to get them to promote the records. Trying to get them to put us up on the Billboard charts, whatever.
Yeah.
Giving them
What
copy.
year? What year was this when you started that?
Probably about 88, 87. What year were you at Wild Pitch? Maybe you forgot.
89. I was trying to. I started at Wild Pitch 89, so I was I was trying to figure out the timing.
Maybe it was 88, 89.
Okay.
It was probably like right then. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, because I remember it was, and it even went into 90 because I remember I saw the Ghetto Boys album came out. I remember, we were bumping that at Delicious Vinyl
Yeah.
when it came out or whatever. That's the best way for me to do dates, but sometimes the dates are wrong
Me too.
in
Me
the
too.
internet. That's what messes me up a little bit. But yeah, so it was around that time, the birth of the CD was just about to happen, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
We're still doing with cassettes and vinyl, or it's just starting with CDs. It's
Yeah,
right
the
at that
CD.
time.
Remember the CDs came in a long box. It was like all the
Yeah.
shit was empty. It was like this long ass box. Oh my god! So Delicious Vinyl, which is when we met and we started talking
Yeah.
basically every day. Like what? And so you had Tone Loc, right?
Tone
You had
Loc,
Young
Wild
MC,
Thing, Young MC, Bust a Move. Those were the big artists. Then later they got Master Ace. We had Def Jeff, though.
Def Jeff.
We had Body and Soul. Yeah, it's so funny. Def Jeff shoots a video and I have a cameo in it where like I have like 50 African medallions around my neck and like 25 in each hand, and I'm trying to like sell them to Africa, and he just like suns me. White dude selling African medallions. One of my classic cameos, one of my best ones. But anyway,
Wow.
yeah, Delicious was just a home, man. It was just a great place to learn about the business. And like they flew me out. I'd never been to New York. They flew me out to New York, and I went to the New Music Seminar, which was just incredible. Like I'm meeting Red Alert and Stretch Armstrong and Dave Mays and John Schechter and
Yep.
Rob and just everybody. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like, man, my man who found Biggie.
Who? The Mr. C, Mark Pitts. Who?
No, I'm the guy who wrote it in the source. I was just thinking all those source guys. I
Matty
blanked
C.
on his
Matty
name.
C. Matty C.
Matty
And
C, of course. Yeah, yeah. No, so I met all these great guys, and it was just this great thing because everything was so regional. There's no internet, everything like that, so it's all like a mystery. So it's like, okay, how do I do this in LA? Where do I go? People were hitting me up. I was doing street promotion for Tommy Boy, so we're working like De La Soul, Naughty by Nature. I took Queen Latifah around on our first trip. We were supposed to take Naughty by Nature around, but the itinerary was too hood, and they just shut us down. He was like, "Oh, none of this shit." Something like that.
Yeah.
But we worked Cypress Hill. Those are so I was doing street promotion, and that led into management. People started coming up to me going, "Hey, man, and one of the first people that was a big deal was Everlast. So he came to me and said, "Hey, I got this project with Muggs, and they're trying to get Cypress Hill popping. It hadn't really popped off yet. It was right before, and so." He's like, I need my own manager. And so I started shopping and I got him his deal. I knew Tommy Boy. Obviously, I'd been there. I was actually on retainer for Tommy Boy in LA. So for a while, I worked everything on Tommy Boy, which was great. I met Digital Underground, so many people.
They had a phenomenal roster. Yeah, they had a crazy roster. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. So you hooked up with Everlast, and that was your first management client.
Right. And it
didn't last. Jump around.
It was on the demo, unchanged, and people slept on it, bro. And don't
it's funny.
Don't everybody tell you it was different either, because they still.
No, it's funny because I was in research and I saw you say that about that, and it was back again. I'm the old guy, but back then there were some songs that would be on the demo, like you said, that would come out. It was unchanged. Like they were like passing me by.
I'm sure they probably mixed and mastered it. I didn't hear that, but I'm saying the basis of the song, like if you couldn't hear that version of the song, you weren't going to be able to hear the other version.
Exactly.
There was no big changes in it or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I mean that's what I mean. Same thing with Gangsta's Paradise. You know what I mean? Which, by the way, I just found out it's got over 2 billion streams.
2 billion.
Song that was recorded in my living room. So that's pretty wild.
So tell me that story, how you recorded in your living room, the Coolio record.
Okay, well, I'll take a real quick through, right? So I'll backpedal a second, right?
Okay.
So after House of Pain, which didn't last very long for certain reasons, I found The Far Side at the Gavin convention, and you were there.
Yeah.
I have a photo of all of us there.
I have that same picture. All of us.
The college radio music convention was called the Gavin Convention, and everybody went there. And the crazy thing is, this is some real culture shit, because the Far Side was there as dancers for some street dudes, pharmaceutical salesman of the streets guy, had this really artist who was mad mid. It was called Gang of Textbooks. And the Far Side was dancing for them. And it's so 6 degrees separation because we were doing street promotion for Gang of Textbooks. And I never had anybody come and pay me in cash. That dude came and I was dealing with the labels and invoices and it for years. Here's a little part of it, fuck, this dude came and just whipped off bands, the music was trash. But what was crazy was the Far Side was dancing for them. Now, they were all in the lobby freestyle. And I think, I remember kind of something in the lobby, people freestyle. I probably watched it for a second or so. We were up in our room, hanging out, drinking, smoking, talking shit. It was Malik Levy, me, Lano Brazil.
Absolutely.
There was, I think maybe Cedra Walton was there. There was a couple. There was a couple different people in there. And anyway, people say they were in the room that aren't in the room, but I won't get into that. But anyway, it was a crazy story because Lano had a record out with Razkaz. He was trying to do his own little independent label at the time. This guy Lano Brazil. I don't know if you know, he worked at Capitol. He was
I remember him.
He's a DJ now, modeling. He's not modeling, right? But so anyway, he. Razkaz came up to the room. It's 1 a.m. or something like that. We're getting nice. We've been nice. And he comes in the room with 3 members of the Far Side. One of them wasn't in town. I don't remember which one. And anyway, he comes over and he says, yo, these guys rap or whatever. And Lano, my man, 20 grand, says, this guy gets people deals because I got a deal. That was the only group I got in a deal, really.
But hey.
I got a demo for Vicky Calhoun with Quest, but before that. But anyway, so they get in a huddle, and this famous story, and they start doing that song "Your Mama," talking about your mama ate 22 burritos at Taco Bell, and then jumping up on the bed and just spazzing out the young Far Side with all this energy, what I mean, that they had and everything, and we're just dying and loving it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So like I get the number or something like that. We meet the next day, I think. Or I get the number, whatever. And um, yeah, and then that's went from there. But, we're all from LA, so I came back to LA. I met Jay Swift, whoever I forget which member wasn't there that night, and I started managing the Far Side, and I shopped that demo, and I got them their deal. So that lasted a lot longer than the House of Pain thing. I was with them, I got more props from that. So then I'm coming out to New York. I'm like the Far Side's manager, dude. And everybody in New York loved the Far Side. Oh yeah, everybody.
Absolutely.
Ice Cube loved the Far Side. You know what I mean? So like, they were just kind of like artists.
Yeah.
Anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that was just an incredible experience for me. And then so while I was the street promotion company had been rough. I'd done it for a couple of years. I had a lot of people working for me, and I got an offer through. You talking about Red Alert? I got connected through Funkenklein. Dave Funkenklein used to work for Red Alert. R.I.P.
God bless him.
Yeah, and Ice Cube was looking to hire a promotion marketing guy, and so I interviewed, and he was in the '60s too. His office was the Street Knowledge was down in Pat Charbonnet's family business office.
Okay,
and I went down
Pat
there.
Charbonnet. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
right. And I went down there, and they really liked me, and they offered me the job. And I said, okay, that's cool, but I'm managing the Far Side. Can I keep that or whatever? And he was like, oh, I like the Far Side. So he was like, yeah, that's good. It'll give you more juice with the college radio, mixed show radio guys, because you got a group that's how people were thinking back then too.
Yes.
And they weren't paying me a lot. I was in the dungeon and I'm deep in the '60s. I mean, it was for me. It was a dream job. I'm working for Ice Cube. There are only like 5 people that worked in Street Knowledge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I'm working Cam. We had dope music. I'm working Cam. I didn't work
Del. Yo-Yo?
Del came out that time. Yo-Yo. I took Yo-Yo around New Music Seminar. What? We couldn't get half a block. New York dudes was trying to lose their mind. But yeah, I worked Yo-Yo. I worked Cam, and I worked Lynch Mob. I really worked Cam and Lynch Mob the most. But it was around Del and Yo-Yo, and I helped promote Yo-Yo. Like I said, I took her around.
Wow. Yeah. Damn. So real quick. So God bless him.
Oh, that's where I met Coolio. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me finish.
No. We'll go back.
That's where I met Coolio. Where I was working for Ice Cube, because WC used to come with them, and I started managing him. And then my deal at Def Jam got messed up. They kicked me out. I moved into my house, my whole office. My roommate was a producer, and that's how Gangsta's Paradise happened, because the whole PMP company was up in my house. The producer was there, and Coolio came by one day to get a check. He heard what LV and Doug Rashid had already been working on.
Uh-huh.
Doug was my roommate. LV was our management client. And then he just, busted it out that day.
And then, damn, history was made. Because that song won a Grammy, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. I remember, God bless him, Sean Karazov. He had the Far Side demo. Would pass me by, was on the demo. Same thing, same kind of shit. And I remember he said, Sledge, listen to this, man. I think I like this. And I listened to it, and I remember writing on, because I used to write comments on the cassettes back then. And I was like, I like the guys with the high voices. You know what I'm saying? Because they had higher voices than most rappers. And then when you said
Sean was trying to sign him.
Yeah.
And what went wrong? And by the time we got to Jive and Sean, we got turned down by Def Jam. I think we met with people like Giant,
Wow.
We were meeting with, there was a bunch the guys were getting like a couple free dinners, lunches out of it. And then they were like, we don't want to do any of it. At first they were all like, let's get all the free. Then they were like, man, it was burning. They were scared, and they met Delicious Vinyl, and they just felt like it was a home.
Yeah, because smaller was in LA. Yeah. It's like easy.
But, it's funny because, I had worked at Delicious. They gave me my first job, but I didn't take them there right away because I was trying to get, and we all wanted to sign to Def Jam. We all were hoping to get the deal with Def Jam. And Tracy Waples wanted to sign him, and Russell notoriously said, that sounds like some East Village Brett King shit. Brett King is an eclectic film and TV producer, worked on like Fresh Prince and a bunch of stuff. Yeah, so he was from the Village,
Wow.
I guess, yeah. So, Yeah, Russell
That
didn't
sounds
mess
like some
with it. A
shit
lot of people
Russell would
didn't
say.
mess with it. A lot of people slept on that House of Pain demo with the jump around on it. But anyway, it's who brings stuff to you too. I was just new, you know what I mean? So that was
Yeah,
a part of it too, people are like,
yeah.
but it was the era where if you had something good, people would listen to it.
Oh, absolutely.
Sign you off of a demo because there was no internet. There was almost no regionality. That came a little after.
Yeah, came much after. Yeah, so I would have I would get demos all the time, and I end up putting them in like a little cardboard box, and then
Yeah.
I like say on Friday afternoon would be
Mm.
my demo time, and I put my headphones on, and I just doom, listen to tapes, and write notes, like whack, pass, whatever.
And we'll be right back.
Welcome to Merrick Studios, where stories take the mic and culture comes alive.
We're not just a network, we're a family, bringing you smart, soulful, unfiltered conversations.
And this season, we're bringing the heat with our biggest lineup yet. Whatever you're into, music, sports, business, we got you covered.
Merrick Studios, where the conversation starts and keeps going.
Check out our full lineup, including Unglossy with Bun B, Jeffrey Sledge, and myself, Tom Frank. Now streaming at wearemerrickstudios.com.
Master the art of lyricism with Pendulum Mink, the first school for rap. Learn elite techniques through immersive lessons, real-world exercises, and guidance from hip-hop icons. This is where MCs sharpen their skills and glow boldly on the mic. Ready to level up? Visit pendulummink.com and start your journey today.
And now, back to the show.
Coolio blows up, and where do you go from there?
Well, it was a really interesting time. Like I said, I was at my house, right? Because I was in between deals. Like, Def Jam was suing me. They had fired me. They had told all the other companies I was blackballed or whatever. But when Gangsta's Paradise blew up that big, these greedy white folks got interested. They said, well, what is this Def Jam? What's it really about?
Something out.
This kid seems to have a touch here. What's going on? And I did a deal with BMG through my, Steve Rifkin hooked it up. And I went through Loud, So big props to Steve. It was a big deal. I spent so much money on overhead. I came in right at the end of this little label deals with the big overheads where they were just crashing because,
absolutely.
Napster and everything was, coming or had come already or whatever, So it was like, I did it wrong. It's funny, like Rick Rubin wanted to give me a deal. And I remember he said his deal was really small, though, compared. He was like, keep your overhead low. If I had known. But also, Rick, it's interesting, too, because at that time, Rick's label wasn't high. Certainly not
was that Deaf American?
Yeah. It was a moment where they were like, a little slower before they had some of the, just even because, Rick just came such a guru of like production after that. But he was kind of in that between hip hop and like, I don't know, maybe he had done the Red Hot Chili Peppers already or whatever, but it wasn't like all that Johnny Cash and everything.
Yeah.
Before all that. But anyway, I mean, he was smart, right? But so I had I need the big office I need my own mixed team guys, street team guys, mixed show guys, whatever, And I didn't really have a lot of hits with that label. I had Delinquent Habits, which had a big regional hit. It was kind of a classic, got been used in film and TV forever since then. But I signed some kind of wacky shit. And, I didn't get the chance to really, have any mistakes, And so that deal ended. And then I started I worked at Virgin doing A&R for a little while, but I wasn't good in the corporate structure and stuff. So, around that time, I'd already started music supervising, and I just kind of leaned into that. And started making much more of a focus, I mean,
so is that what you linked up with? Is around this time when you linked up? Wait. So this is what I told you earlier. I was confused with the timeline. Was this before or after Montel Jordan?
Okay,
because my timeline is off.
It's all so tight, and what's so interesting about it, right? So I told you I was working in the 60s for Ice Cube, do marketing promotion, right?
Yes.
At that time, I'm DJing a bunch of places. And I'm DJing on the set of a bunch of TV shows, Fresh Prince, Martin, and the show Out All Night for like the studio audiences. So it's this gig I hooked up to starting with the Fresh Prince. So I'm on the set of Out All Night, Patti LaBelle's show. Short-lived comedy, right? And so I think Vivica Fox was on there. There were a bunch of people on the show. But anyway, John Singleton came by one day, and he saw me DJing like that was something I was playing or something. We talked a little bit. I invited him to a showcase I had going on at the Roxy, like that weekend or something. He came. It was sold out, unsigned artist showcase, And we had like the Wascals, who were like under the Far Side. We had a bunch of Coolio's groups that were under him, even though Coolio hadn't come out yet, but he was signed, right? So anyway, he was so impressed. He was like, "Oh man," he said, "I want to hire you to run my new record label with Epic and music supervise my new film, Poetic Justice."
Wow.
Yeah, with Tupac and Janet Jackson. Like, whoa.
Wow.
So, and also I worked for Cube, and I know he spoke to Cube and was kind of like, "Hey, I want to poach him or whatever," and Cube gave his blessings, because he had obviously done so much for Cube, and so.
Yeah, of course.
And it was a huge opportunity for me. All of a sudden, I'm on the Sony lot in Culver City, not in the rolling 60s, ducking.
Like you said, with Tupac and Janet, and Joe Torre and Regina King, and like that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's unbelievable.
Yeah, it was a whole like kind of like I felt a little bit like what's to say where the prince knew or the king clothes. I didn't know what I was doing.
Empress.
I didn't know what a music supervisor did. I didn't know nothing about it. But John really just wanted me to find hot records like A&R. He's like, I can handle how the music's used and all that. I don't, And we had Sony's legal department clearing everything. So I didn't have to do any of the clearance stuff yet.
You just had to find heat.
Just had to find heat.
Wow. So give me.
They were clearing samples and everything, like there's nothing. It was John Singleton right after Boys in the Hood. This is the youngest filmmaker to ever get nominated and the only black filmmaker at that time to get nominated for Best Director. So, this is his second movie. The first one cost like $1.5 million and made like zillion, a whole lot of money. So yeah, everybody was, on point.
So like, is there a wild, I don't like to say crazy, wild or interesting story from the set that you can remember during that time?
I wasn't on the set.
Oh, okay.
What's crazy, I can tell you, is that when I met them, they were like rapping.
Really?
And it's like a present to himself and Tupac and his new homie me. He took us all to Freaknik. John flew us out to the Atlanta Freaknik, and we hung out for the weekend. Yeah.
Wow. That must have been wow.
So I got to hang out with Tupac. But then the crazy thing was he wasn't that famous yet. So it's like I didn't quite, understand the gravity of. I had no understanding of the gravity of the situation I was involved in.
He wasn't California Love Tupac, and
that he had like get around out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wow. Wait, so
wasn't really rocking in the South either. But the people were excited to see him. They were like calling him his character from Juice. They were like
Bishop.
They were calling him Bishop and stuff. They were hyped though, because, a black man in movies, that was a big deal back then, man.
Back then, it was huge.
People don't understand they weren't around, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That kind of thing, Yeah.
So tell me about the Montel Jordan thing.
Oh, yeah. So I worked for John for about a year, right?
Okay.
Doing that. I found in the process, one of the songs that I found for the soundtrack while I was working on getting the Dog Pound song from the Death Row guys was Mr. Grimm. Warren G came, I got my own stuff. And he played me the Mr. Grimm Indo Smoke song. So I brought that in. John loved it. And we signed Mr. Grimm to his label. And we started managing Warren. At this time, I'm managing Coolio. He hasn't come out yet. In fact, John put Coolio's music in Poetic Justice, where Tupac's talking about, this is my cousin. It was like Coolio's demos twice. But anyway, so I'm managing Far Side. I'm managing Coolio. Lighter Shade of Brown I had picked up. And so we start managing, and what we were doing, it was a because I'm working for John, the management was a collective together, me and him as partners. I mean, he didn't do anything, but it was, his name. Yeah. And I brought in Warren, and we started managing Warren, and we signed Mr. Grimm as an artist. And R.I.P. Chris Lighty, man.
Yes.
Amazing guy, Chris Lighty. If you don't know, man, look him up. Anyway, he was everybody: 50 Cent, Fat Joe, Missy. I don't
everybody. Busta, Mariah,
Quest. I mean, I don't even. Mariah. I don't even tell you all the things he was doing, but the vitamin water deal. But anyway, Chris. Chris was a good friend and a really smart guy. And when we put out the Indo Smoke video, I sent out like 50 copies to VIPs. And he wrote me back. He was one of my VIPs, right? And he was like, hey, who's the guy in the second verse rapping? I was like, oh, that's Warren G, Dr. Dre's brother, Snoop Dogg's DJ. Next thing I know, Russell Simmons calling me, and they want to sign him. So I end up going to Def Jam. But while I was before I left, this guy was bugging John to hear his fraternity brother. They're all Kappas. It was Michael Jordan. And John was like, I'm busy. Let Paul hear him. So I heard him, and I thought he was dope. But then I left to Def Jam, and John was already kind of mad at me how I left. At first, he got way over it. We worked on many projects after. But I didn't want to try to take Montel, you know what I mean? Even be disloyal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was sunning Montel. And I had my new deal at Def Jam. And John was really not, John wasn't serious about the music stuff, So Montel was like, hey, he's not even returning my calls. I was like, all right. And I got him, flew out. Me and him went to New York, and he performed for Russell and Andre Harrell famously. He tells a story driving around in Andre's Range Rover, and they were sold, He didn't even have This Is How We Do It yet. But he was just, he was singing over kind of like Dre type things. He was talking about like things like Crenshaw, but, squeaky clean, like no swear words or anything like that. But he was kind of talking a little bit about, getting lit and, partying. But, so it was like a singer. The West Coast didn't have any Jodeci's really yet or any like R&B singers. So it was like everybody was kind of like, okay, we get it. He's like a West Coast, Now,
another question I wanted to ask you, because I was trying to remember. Did you have anything to do with the Domino record?
Yeah, definitely. When I got
Domino too.
When I got hired to Def Jam, I was VP of A&R. And the Domino record, this producer, Jammin' James, that I worked with on Lighter Shade of Brown, was like, hey, you should hear this thing. It's going up in the hood or whatever. And it was Domino. And he introduced me to Anti and Greedy Greg. I might have known Greedy Greg already, but I don't know. But it was probably I think I knew him. It was my first time doing business with him. But he had a partnership with this guy, Anti, and Domino was signed to their label. It was like a little independent label. So I just connected them to Def Jam, and it was part of my job. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Now, the Domino and Montel's record, were they out around the same time?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember, you probably don't remember, but I remember us having a conversation and you telling me about the Montel record. And I remember, and to this day, this is still true. I was like, I hate that record. And it kept blowing up and blowing up and blowing. And I was like, I don't understand how this, to this day, I still don't like I always liked the Domino record. I was like, the Domino record is
not. Can I tell you a funny story about the Montel record?
Please.
Before it came out, I was taking meetings in New York, about getting a new label deal. And I met with Clive Davis, and I sent him This Is How We Do It before it came out. And he sent me this letter that I framed, and he said, oh my God, you have a smash here. I paid it like 8 times over the weekend, congrats. And he goes, do you have he was looking for a young Teddy Pendergrass type artist. That's how he described it. And he said, it'd be great to work on something together. If you find an art, a good artist, let me know, and something to that extent, but I think he knew it was a hit more than Montel, me, Def Jam, the producers. Everybody wants to be like, we knew it was a smash, but I do think it took everyone quite a bit by surprise how it took off. You know what I mean? And there were definitely people that didn't believe in it. I liked it a lot. But it wasn't as immediate to me as when I heard Jump Around or Passing Me By or certain other songs that I had discovered that I knew right away, And speaking of that, Gangsta's Paradise, the label didn't really like it. And it wasn't until we shopped it around and the woman at MCA, some old white lady who loved it, another cases, telling us about what's, going to work at our culture or maybe what's going to work outside our culture. Maybe that's why, what I mean? Sometimes you're too insular, so you don't understand that as much. I'm definitely guilty of that because I was worried that some people might think This Is How We Do was a little blasphemous because of the Slick Rick. Now I wasn't so worried about it that I wasn't behind it. You know what I mean? I mean, shit, I'm partying in the original video that I got cut out for some reason, but No, obviously I was big behind it, but I didn't have the vision it was going to be as huge
Yeah,
as.
nah. I mean, yeah. Look, I was wrong. Clearly, I was wrong as fuck. The record still rocks to this day. So, like, and that happens. I was like, oh, I was wrong about that one. That this record is huge. Like, in whatever. I missed it. Shit. So wait, tell me about the Warren thing. Tell me about Warren G at Def Jam.
So
Chris and everything.
Chris Lighty recognized that, here's an unsigned rapper that seems is kind of affiliated with Death Row and Dr. Dre and everything. And you got to remember, Def Jam had missed out on the whole West Coast thing.
Yes.
I mean, they had artists like South Central Cartel that didn't do any
Yeah.
numbers, and a few other groups that didn't do any numbers. You know what I mean? They tried a bunch of stuff. I'm trying to remember some of the artists, but so the West Coast had been killing them. You know what I mean? Death Row had been killing them, and Warren. It's funny because Chris was such a. I met Chris when he was the road manager for the Jungle Brothers, and he just, he's from the Bronx. He worked for Red Alert, and I mean, to me, just like, here's a guy who's like the epitome of like New York hip hop. Why is he even recognizing this West Coast thing? Because he's a motherfucking businessman. You know what I mean? Like, and a smart dude. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
He was a smart guy and a great guy too, man. But anyway, so he's the one. He called me, and it's kind of funny because I'm working for John. I'm on the Sony lot, and I knew Russell Simmons. Remember, he had passed on the Far Side and everything. And they're like, Paul, Russell Simmons on line one. And I had a lot of friends who used to fuck with me back then. And I picked up, and he's got the heavy lisp. Hey, Paul, this is Russell. And I was like, man, stop playing games. I'm busy. And I hung up on him. I thought it was one of my homies. He called back, no, Paul, this is Billy Russell. Oh, fuck. My bad. Damn, sorry. That's hilarious. I hung up on him, right? But anyway, he calls back, and he wants to sign Warren G. And they got a big heart on, sign Warren G. And so, my attorney, man, great guy that I had, Tony Abner, that had helped me, after the House of Pain thing didn't go so well. I met him, and he helped me, with Farside, Cool, everybody like that. All the clients I had after that. I was like, man, Def Jam's calling. He's like, tell me you want your own label. I was like, I gotta give him my own label. Because I didn't think so, because the only thing I had done to that point was Farside. Remember, Coolio hadn't come out yet. So, and I mean, I'd done House of Pain, but I wasn't really getting credited for it like that. You know what I mean? I guess maybe they knew, but, I don't know. So anyway, I just didn't think they were going to give me a label. It's Def Jam. You know what I mean, too? I guess, and that's when they were giving out labels. You know what I mean? Especially Def Jam. If I'd been paying more attention, boy, they were throwing them around. You know what I mean?
They had, was it RAL, Rush Associated Labels? There's a lot of people under that little umbrella.
I was part of that and not part of that,
Okay.
Def Jam West. And they were,
Yeah, Def Jam West.
My shit was PMP. Yeah, and it came out under RL, it came under Def Jam. It was, I was in the beginning, it was Polygram. No, it was Sony when I first got there, and they switched to Polygram, which turned into Universal. I was there wild times. So, and not the best of times. But anyway, they decide they want to sign Warren. They give me a deal. They make me VP of A&R, and that's how it started. I didn't end up managing Warren. He was like, "This is a conflict. You work for Def Jam now." I said, "Okay, whatever."
Yeah. But I heard you said that.
I didn't mean that any kind of slight. Like, I love Warren. Warren's one of the best guys. So
yeah. No. But I remember I heard it, and I knew this. We had talked about it. How Warren, and I knew Chris. Obviously, me and Chris were very close as well. He told me how Warren really saved Def Jam. And it sounds kind of like hyperbole, but he did. He definitely saved Def Jam. He really did.
They were going to have to sell because they were. Yeah, they were like get squeezed because Sony wasn't paying them money that they perceived to be owed to them, and Polygram wasn't gonna like front them until they I guess maybe had like the rights to their back catalog or something signed off on from
the masters
Sony, whatever
and shit.
it was. You know what I mean? Something that was a part of the deal, and then the Warren went triple platinum. So I mean, back then that was like CDs. I mean, so it's like 30 million or whatever. I mean,
it's crazy.
However much money they made. But Yeah, no, he says it in interviews and everything, and yeah, it's that's cool. That's nice to be attributed for helping save a classic label. I got a little, Dan Charnas, great guy, professor
Mm-hmm.
at NYU.
NYU.
He wrote something about me in the Def Jam history book. There's a little bit about me bringing over Montel and Warren.
Yeah, man. You saved Def Jam. You did. You
I'll
did.
take
God
that.
bless you, man.
Yeah.
Hey, so tell me how so after this run, you start to go into more the singing stuff after this.
Yeah,
The music,
exactly.
well,
Exactly.
music supervision. Let me just
Yeah.
say,
John
yeah.
hires me to do Poetic Justice. And then a little after that, and I'm still doing the different label stuff and all that for a while. But yeah, then I met these young guys and ended up doing the barbershop. So I did Men of Honor and Barbershop 1 and 2. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And then
Ice Cube again.
right. And then after that, more or less, John came back and started hiring me again, and I worked on Four Brothers. Well, Fast and Furious 2 was the first one I did. Fast and Furious
Wow.
2, Hustle and Flow, Four Brothers, and got to do some work on Snowfall too.
So tell me about tell me about Snowfall, because obviously that's cult a cult uh, classic show,
Yeah.
and the music definitely is so integral in the show. So
Yeah.
tell me about that, how that came together in the process of working on Snowfall.
Well, I mean, it's crazy because like when uh, John hired me to do Fast and Furious 2. We hadn't worked together for a long time. What a
Okay.
great project, right?
Yeah,
And
huge,
working on,
huge.
you know what I mean, right? And
Yeah.
then after that, it's like, hey, I'm developing this my own thing, but he didn't have it funded yet, and that was Hustle and Flow. And I worked on it for like a year
Okay.
before it really even got. And it wasn't like I wasn't doing like building bridges. I was like sending beats and stuff from like all the DJ Slump or like dope Southern producers. Eventually, I
Yeah.
hooked up the 3-6 thing, and I hooked up the oh God, my good friend out there, Al Capone. So
Okay.
those are the guys that wrote the music. It was between Al Capone and 3-6,
Three
So
six. Yeah.
eventually we got it, but David Banner, we almost was going to write the music at one point. So I was putting in work on that side. And then because we had to figure out all that before the movie, but we did a lot just because it's like John asked you to do it, you do it, you work on it, you're excited, you read the script, it's incredible. And then he finally gets, the movie made. And so I work on it, you know what I mean? And so Snowfall was kind of a similar thing. Like John was trying to develop Snowfall for a long time, and I was helping him with it for a long time behind the
Hmm.
scenes that nobody knows about. But eventually, he got it made. Network didn't like his pilot. The showrunner did a new pilot. I did the pilot. In the course of that, they brought in different supervisors. I didn't work on Snowfall for quite a few seasons. But eventually,
Okay.
John always wanted me to help, and they brought me back in to do consulting. So I worked on
Okay.
consulting for several seasons. So it was cool. Like when they were creating original music, I got involved a couple times and really helped create that. I would make suggestions and stuff. But it was pretty lightweight. I mean, the supervisors there, benefited from having, for the majority of Snowfall, benefited from having John Singleton, who, grew
Yeah.
up in the era as a young kid, just enamored with music and his music, so he had great taste in music. And
Hmm.
then, the other people on the show probably, were kind of from that era. And so, like, when there's like the white music and stuff in the show too, that's kind of reflective of probably their experiences. And, so it was, John had great music taste. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
it's great. But yeah, I think everyone did a great job on that show, and it was amazing to be a part of it, and super excited for, the spinoff that I can't talk about. But,
Got you.
yeah, yeah.
Let me ask a quick question before we move on. Is
Yeah.
it what are the what if there are what are the differences in working with doing music supervision for films as opposed to television?
Well, the timetable is a lot faster in TV. Typically, I mean, films can really drag out. And films are tend to be a little bit like more artistic. They're like the director is the one who's like making the decisions. On TV
Hmm.
shows, it can be like group decision, producers, showrunners. You know what I mean? Editors are making a lot of the decisions. I mean, editors always make decisions, but like who says yay or nay to those decisions? You know what I mean? Like,
Gotcha.
you know, and in films, it's the director. And in TV, you know, it's almost like, well, if they don't like what the editor put in, then they're going to change it. Or, you know, like depending on what kind of show it is. Like I did that Rhythm and Flow season 2 recently, and we spent over $1 million in like licensing big name hip hop songs. So, you know, there was a lot of input from, you know, Jesse Collins is a very urban driven company. They produced it. They got people on their staff that know what's going on. You know, they don't need me to like necessarily like on everything, but they would ask me opinions on those things. I was very busy bringing great independent music so that the rest of the music in the show that wasn't that $1 million worth of licensed big movie sounded as good and wasn't just like a bunch of library music. So that's what they really had me focusing on. They didn't really need me, you know, to tell them Busta Rhymes is the host. Use this, what Busta Rhymes song you should use or whatever. You know, guest host this show or whatever. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So it just every situation is a little different. You know what I mean? But TV tends to be a more commercial, less of an artistic thing. I did that movie with A$AP Rocky a couple years back. Such a powerful movie. Where he plays like a street dude and everything, called Monster. It was called.
Yeah. Oh, Monster, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, that director, man, you know, come from the music video world, such a talented guy. I'm blanking on his name too. He's a really big music video director. And that was one of his first features, but really creative, artistic guy. And he was friends with all those people, you know, and we ended up getting like, oh man, like Santa Gold and Sister Nancy and, you know, Dave East and Michelle and the Gacello. I mean, like almost, you know, like, you know, it's a thin line. That shit, you know, like the music was, you know, like outstanding. But man, was it rough
I bet.
To clear all that. You know what I mean?
I was about to say clearance must have been crazy.
Yeah, man, we had, you know, we had a lot of. I mean, we had to make a separate. They call them MFNs. Okay, everything's going to clear for 30,000 aside or 60 grand or whatever for the song, right, or whatever it was. I don't remember, but it's a thin line. You know, they got to get 80. You know, like they're in a different MFN.
Yeah, it's a different level. It's
right.
Level.
So and everyone else got to agree to that. You know what I mean? So you got, you know, so it's a lot of, and you're dealing with all these publishers and everything like that. You know, but it's great to work with guys like that. You know, that have that kind of music taste. That's thrilling. You know. But it's great too. The TV thing, I give a lot of independent artists their first chance all the time to get their music placed. You know, little plug, I do consulting. Hit me up on Instagram if you want. Independent artists out there, help you get your music placed on film and TV. But yeah, when I do these shows, these TV shows, I get to give a lot of independent producing artists like their first placements, or have helped a lot of people get in the placement game, and now they're like active doing it in a bunch of shows and stuff. You know, so that's really rewarding. You know, because my whole career was always about helping artists.
Helping people,
you know, as a manager, you know, discovering talent. Oh, you're dope. You know, let's make money together.
Yeah.
You know, I was
giving people opportunities.
Exploitive one in the industry, so to speak, you know.
So wait, tell me working on Insecure.
Oh, yeah. A dream. That was amazing. I mean, just so proud of Issa, you know what I mean, at that time, because she had launched it from a web series. That's what like everyone's like, saying, you know, grow it organically. And she did it from the neighborhood, like where I grew up, you know, right over there and everything. And she was so creative. And I remember I had my meeting and they liked me. I came in there with a lot of energy. You know what I mean? I was like, I had seen every awkward black girl, like, you know what I mean? Like episode or whatever. Like I went in there like I watched all the web series, boom, you know, and I was like, oh man, I get it. The script's so great, you know, And it really came in there high energy, pumped, like, oh, I'm the one to do this. And I think they liked me a lot. And then she was like, send us a playlist. And it was crazy because that's high pressure, man.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't even feel that high pressure, but the ones that made sense, I felt pressure. But it was, I don't know, like, I remember Hotline Bling, like, came out that week, and I put it on there, like it was brand new. You know what I mean? And I had, like, people like Jungle Pussy out of Brooklyn on there, you know, kind of stuff that I knew she would dig based on her, aesthetic and sense of humor and everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just, that time period, there was all that good kind of like Kaylani, but just not even her so much, but just that R&B vibe that was going on right at that time.
Yes.
There was a
Yes.
lot of like good new music. And I put a couple old classic songs on there just to show a little, you know what I mean? I think they asked for that too, And she loved the playlist and I got hired.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Hey, so tell me about this documentary that you have that you going to be putting out soon and what you're doing now. What's next for Paul Stewart?
Oh, thanks, man. Well, I've been spending a lot of time here in the Dominican Republic, and I'm working on this documentary, The Heart of the City.
Okay.
And I went to all the most like impacted barrios here, and I just started going there to meet music artists. And I was so fascinated about, it's kind of like favelas almost, like in Brazil, but, they're like their own little worlds. The taxi driver dropped you off at the top, like, good luck. You know what I mean? And like, you go down these little winding roads and they got everything they need down there. They don't even got to leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they don't got to leave. Yeah.
They're not like markets, but they got markets. They got everything,
They got everything, yeah.
They're mostly, a lot of them are by the river, and just was fascinated. And so I started filming in the barrios here in Santo Domingo. And they're like overlooked areas. Like the mainstream doesn't like to really talk about them that much and things like that. So I thought it would be cool, it's mostly tied into music artists and kind of how the community supports artists and artists' dreams to get out of the hood through doing music. And, it's kind of like that. That's more or less what's back. We have some bigger artists in there, but it's a lot of like upcoming people. And we have a lot of people just live in these neighborhoods talking about life and experience too. Wanted to show a more positive side to it too, because you see it was all this exploitive like hood vlogs. I'm in the worst neighborhood and
don't go up here. You're gonna get killed.
And I went to those neighborhoods and got so much love. You know what I mean? And not to be naive or anything, I went in there with people that were loved and respected. I didn't just waltz in, you know what I mean? But, I spent a lot of time in some of these communities and it's all been positive. And so, I've been filming that and I'm working on that. The White Boy from Crenshaw documentary is in a potentially rebirth of a state. That's like, my life story. And working on a few other docs right now. And as you know, I can't really talk about it yet, but I'm music supervising and I'm being involved in a musical production, more capacity than just music supervising a big video game project right now, which should be huge. Yeah, I'm about to start music supervising Dante Ross's new documentary. And we'll see what's on the horizon for me there, but really focused on this video game and these documentaries at the moment.
That's dope, man. So we're gonna wrap it up with this. I ask everybody.
Oh, and one more thing.
Go ahead.
I am doing a lot of consulting for independent artists, like I said, helping them understand how to get their music placed in film and TV, and it typically is the main focus. I mean, I can do other kinds of consulting things, but that's what most people want, So
we'll put a link on this episode so people can reach out to you about that as well. So I do this thing where I ask all my guests these three quick lightning round questions.
Sure.
I kind of tail them for this. So for you, tell me your 3 favorite LA artists. And it's any genre, anything, it doesn't matter.
Tyler.
Okay. And it could be old, new, it doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah, no, I got you.
Okay.
Kendrick. Is Marvin Gaye from LA? No, I don't know. He's not.
He's from DC.
People that lived in LA, you start going old.
He lived in LA, but he's from DC.
But yeah, no. I'll just stay in hip hop. Cube.
Okay.
Ice Cube.
Those are 3 good ones.
I'm sure I forgot somebody I really like, but
there's a million.
Ty Dollar Sign's hanging around in there.
Ty's he's about to drop a new record. I think maybe tonight. That's next week soon. Tell me your 3 favorite movies.
Oh. Whoa. Favorite movies. Man. I don't know, man. That's a really tough one for me. I mean, I guess Goodfellas was quite a classic. You know what I mean? That French film, La Haine, The Hate.
Oh, La Haine is incredible.
Incredible film. I mean, Spike had some, really amazing ones. Yeah, maybe Do the Right Thing.
Okay. And last one, name your 3 favorite places in LA.
Culver City Stairs.
Ah,
Lamert Park. I'm waiting for Chance to reopen his coffee shop, but Lamert Park. And number 3, I'll just say the Crenshaw district as a whole.
okay. You know what? I'm gonna throw one more on there that just popped in
Yeah.
my head. Give me one of your favorite places in Dominican Republic.
Oh wow. Okay, well, Zona Colonial, where I live, where I'm at right now, is the best place in the world. Yeah,
Is
so
that that's
definitely
the
come visit
neighborhood?
Zona Colonial. That's a neighborhood in San Domingo.
Okay.
Outside of San Domingo, there's an area called Samana and an area called like Las Terrenas in Samana, which is just beautiful beach area if you want to just like escape. San Domingo's a big city, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then the third one will go straight super hood, 42 Capatillo, like East New York. That's like Watts, like that's
Washington
the
Heights and
the
shit.
most dangerous
Yeah.
neighborhood here, and it's like full of life and passion. And my man Dave Mattel, they just did a movie about him. It was like kind of like runs that shit out. You know what I mean? And it came out in theaters and everything here, and so I'm really happy for him, and he's in my film as well. So
Okay. All right. Cool. Thank you, my brother.
no problem. It was a lot of fun, man. I appreciate your time, and
And
look
I
forward to
appreciate
checking
your
it out.
time. Your time. I'm glad you another good friend of mine I was able to tell their story. And it's a good story to tell.
Man, you know what? I think it's really cool what you're doing because, like you were
Thank you.
saying, these stories. Oh, I was trying to screenshot. These stories are not getting told, or some stories get lost to time. Let's say that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's like you got to be careful, because there's so much like people espousing stuff now that weren't there and don't know. So especially if we're talking about older stuff, you know what I mean, or whatever. And just there's a lot to be gained from learning about the past too. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
and not always looking forward too. You know what I mean? Of
Yeah.
course, you know what I mean. But and learning from young people and everything now. But yeah, no, I appreciate you having the platform, man. And thanks again, man. A great
Thank you.
friendship that lasts so many years. And we were both starting our very first job. So man, amazing.
Together. 89. Jesus Christ. Thank you, my brother. Appreciate it, man.
Okay, you have a good one, man. Talk to you soon.
You can catch Mixed and Mastered on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, or wherever you get your podcasts. Hit that follow button, leave a review, and tell a friend. I'm your host, Jeffrey Sledge. Mixed and Mastered is produced and distributed by Merrick Studios.